Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The much-awaited Pran Pratishtha or consecration ceremony of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple in Ayodhya has been completed, fulfilling what has been claimed as a 500-year-old wait for the homecoming of Lord Ram. It also brings to a finality a decades-old project of the BJP months ahead of the elections. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who led the ceremony, said that the January 22nd is not a date on a calendar, but the dawn of a new era. He equated the consecration with the breaking free of a mindset of slavery and urged that every Indian's consciousness should extend from God to country and from Ram to Rashtra. The temple town of Ayodhya wore a festive look, with thousands of devotees congregating from the length and breadth of India to witness what has been touted as a historic moment for the Hindus. The 8,000-strong guest list included corporate India captains, politicians, film personalities and sportspersons. For decades, the temple site had been a bone of contention between the Hindus and the Muslims and culminated into nationwide riots after the demolition of the 16th century Babri Masjid in December 1992. In 2019, the Supreme Court, in a landmark verdict, brought the curtains down on what has been India's longest-running legal tussle and paved the way for the construction of the temple. Remember, Ayodhya has already been touted as a tourism powerhouse. According to a report by Jeffries, the temple town could attract over 50 million tourists a year. The report highlights that the $10 billion Ayodhya is now set to transport the ancient city from a sleepy town to a global religious and spiritual tourist hotspot. We will be discussing the Ayodhya opportunity in detail. First, let's listen in to snippets from Prime Minister Modi's address.
सदियों की प्रतीक्षा के बाद हमारे राम आ गए हैं। सदियों का अभूतपूर्व धैर्य, अनगिनत बलिदान, त्याग और तपस्या के बाद हमारे प्रभु राम आ गए हैं। इस शुभ घड़ी की आप सभी को, समस्त देशवासियों को बहुत बहुत बधाई। हमारे रामलला अब टेंट में नहीं रहेंगे। हमारे रामलला अब इस दिव्य मंदिर में रहेंगे। मुझे विश्वास है प्रभु राम आज हमें अवश्य क्षमा करेंगे। मैं आभार व्यक्त करूंगा भारत की न्यायपालिका का, जिसने न्याय की लाज रख ली। वो भी एक समय था जब कुछ लोग कहते थे कि राम मंदिर बना तो आग लग जाएगी। ऐसे लोग भारत के सामाजिक भाव की पवित्रता को नहीं जान पाए। रामलला के इस मंदिर का निर्माण भारतीय समाज के शांति, धैर्य, आपसी सद्भाव और समन्वय का भी प्रतीक है।
All right, let's now go across to our guests this evening. We're joined by Ajay Bakaya, the MD of Sarovar Hotels and Resorts. Also with us, Dhruv Shringi, co-founder and CEO of Yatra.com, also with us on the program. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on this auspicious day. Let me begin with you, Mr. Bakaya. How do you see the Prime Minister's speech today, saying that the Ram Temple inauguration actually lays the foundation for the next 1,000 years of India? How do you see this milestone for the country, first of all? Mr. Bakaya.
Parikshit, thank you for having me. I think Ayodhya could not have had a possible better inauguration or opening. The temple, the city, led by the Prime Minister himself. It's become a strong rallying point. It's become a big part in a lot of people's lives. It's celebratory, and the Honorable Prime Minister is leading the way. So from that point of view, fascinating. How it goes down in history is something only time and history will tell. But I think as of today, it's a very momentous occasion. It's a special start. It's something that is close to the hearts of thousands and millions of devotees of Lord Ram. It's certainly a huge milestone, a big benchmark in the formation of a religious city. So it certainly goes beyond religious symbolism into the advent of a new era and a new scale altogether. Something like this has not been done for thousands of years in this country. So I think phenomenal. Could not have been a bigger or a more impactful event, and a better opening for a new city of Ayodhya. Parikshit?
Right. Dhruv Shringi, if I can come to you, how do you and Yatra.com view this as an opportunity? Over the last few months, we've been seeing major airliners making way and connecting Ayodhya on their map. A lot of tourists will also be flocking to Ayodhya over the next few months. How do you see this as the development of Ayodhya as a tourist circuit?
Sure. So thank you for having me on your show, Parikshit. But to address your question, I think from an India point of view, just seeing the kind of euphoria that one is seeing on the road, just talking to other people around, it seems to be one of those moments that's bringing the country together. So it's a moment of great joy, and I think it's a great privilege for all of us in our generation to be able to witness it. So it is definitely a historic moment for the country. But more specifically for the travel industry, I think it's a seminal moment which is bringing together the ecosystem from a religious tourism perspective, if I can call it that, right? See, religious tourism always has been one of the big reasons for travel, but it's always been in the background. This has brought religious tourism to the forefront. I mean, I'm seeing when I'm looking at the kind of profile of people who are traveling, it's no longer just the elderly who are traveling. I'm seeing so many young people also traveling for religious purposes, but it's become religious plus, meaning you would go to a destination, right? You might do one day of darshan, but beyond that, you will then package other activities around it to make it a more holistic holiday. It's centered around pilgrimage or that destination, but it's got other stuff with it, right? We see Amritsar as a classic example. We see Vaishno Devi as another one where, you're seeing more and more side trips being planned in addition to the main darshan which people are looking at.
Right. Mr. Pakaya, let me return to you. Many hotel chains are seeing Ayodhya as a major economic opportunity. Many of them are in talks with district authorities. What about Sarovar hotels and resorts? What is the kind of opportunity you see? Are you looking to set up a property there in the next 36 months? Any kind of investments you've planned for the city?
Parikshit, we are operating the only branded hotel in Ayodhya today. We are operating a Radisson brand called Park Inn by Radisson. And we've been working with the owners who are from Ayodhya itself for the last many years. There are at least 15 to 20 other hotel projects, branded hotel projects that are on the anvil. So give it 5 to 6 years, you'll have a fair amount of supply. Ayodhya has gone in the right way in terms of planning. You got the infrastructure first, you got the roads, you got a railway network, you have the airport. So all of that is in place. We can't be asking for a lot more. And you will see plenty of hotel supply. For anyone going into the market today, I would very strongly advise a proper feasibility study, keeping in mind the number of projects that are already on the anvil. So yes, it's been a great opportunity. And it will remain a great opportunity for the next 5 years. But if there is too much supply, that can also be an issue. So I think for a fresh investor, a proper feasibility study would be very much in order. Parikshit.
Right. So you're saying 15 to 20 properties. Are you talking about the industry or are you only talking about your group, Mr.
No,
Bakaya?
I'm talking about the industry overall. All the brands, all the chains. Everyone has got a foot in the door. Everyone's got projects in different stages of development. People have even bought land as recently as yesterday. I know our owners who've done a deal yesterday. So I think there's lots on the anvil. We operate in cities like Tirupati. We operate in Vrindavan. We operate in Amritsar. All these places have large hotels that Sarovar runs, and I think. An oversupply can be an impediment more than a benefit in time to come. So one just has to be careful. Land is priced sky high at the moment in Ayodhya, and anyone who hasn't invested yet would be wise to look at the overall landscape before jumping in. Parikshit?
Right. So that's an important point because right now, of course, there's a lot of interest in traveling to Ayodhya. And of course, this will stay for a few years. But what after that as a long-term tourist destination? Important and valid points there. Let me go back to Dhruv. Dhruv, Yatra.com, what is the kind of uptick you've seen in flight bookings, hotel bookings around Ayodhya?
So if I look at just more specifically, what we've seen over the last 2 weeks and the kind of forward bookings that we're looking at Ayodhya right now, especially for flights, you're seeing almost a 400% increase in terms of flight bookings, right? So there is a significant amount of demand right now for Ayodhya, and not just for this particular date, but also going forward into the rest of January and then early parts of May. On the hotel side, there is still limited amount of capacity of hotels which is available in Ayodhya. But interestingly, what we are seeing is people are even looking at, Lucknow as a base for travel to Ayodhya, right? Given the new highway which is there, it's about a 2-hour, 30-minute, 2-hour, 45-minute kind of drive. And Lucknow obviously has good capacity of hotels. So people are looking at Lucknow as a base and then driving down and doing a day trip to Ayodhya from there. So people are finding creative ways, right? Not just dependent on the limited amount of supply in Ayodhya right now. Also, with regards to supply in Ayodhya, the conversations that we've had with the key hotel chains, it is very likely that most of them will expand capacity quite significantly into Ayodhya over the course of the next 18 months. A number of them already have ongoing projects. And by the winter of this year, winter of 2024, we'll start seeing meaningful, good quality supply come up in Ayodhya as well.
And Dhruv, how many hotels do you expect to be coming up in Ayodhya in the next 1 year or 18 months?
See, I think in terms of the supply of quality hotels, right, and I would put 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star, and chain products over there. I think we will see at least about 2,000 odd rooms come up in Ayodhya in this kind of 24-month time frame.
All right, Mr. Bakaya, one final question to you before we let you go. Currently, what is the kind of rates, tariffs you're seeing across your properties in the region, in Lucknow, places near Ayodhya, within Ayodhya itself? Till when are hotels in Ayodhya going to be fully booked out?
Parikshit, I believe that any additional branded supply in Ayodhya is at least 2 years away, 2 to 3 years in my opinion. So very strong demand, very little supply, which means rates are going to be strong. I don't want to talk about rates which have gone on in the last 2 days or so. They're sort of unreal because there just wasn't any supply and huge demand. But we are looking at a 90% plus occupancy in our hotel, and we're looking at very sustained, strong rate structure. And I think Ayodhya it will stay that way for at least the next 3 to 4 years. That's my opinion. Parikshit?
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bakaya and Dhruv Shringi from Yatra.com, giving us your view on the kind of tourism potential that the temple inauguration is going to unleash for Ayodhya. We'll take a short break at this point, but when we return, we will speak about the Prime Minister's message when he spoke at the Ram Temple inauguration earlier today and what it means for the country's politics going ahead. Don't go anywhere. Our special discussion continues.
historic day.
आज हम सभी जय श्री राम पधार रहे हैं।
Hello and welcome back. The much-awaited Pran Pratishtha or consecration ceremony of the Ram Janbhoomi Temple in Ayodhya has been completed. We have been talking about the Ayodhya economic opportunities. Let's now focus on the Prime Minister's address and its significance. Joining me now is BJP National Spokesperson Ajay Alok and political analyst Karan Verma and Sandeep Shastri. Sandeep Shastri, if I can begin first with you. This has been on the BJP's agenda for decades now. What does this mean for the political party, for the ruling party, now that this milestone has been achieved?
Parikshit, I think today's development for the ruling party allows a voice of faith to become the vocabulary of politics. That, I think, for me is one of the possible achievements that today can lead to. Something which was intensely about religious faith. As I said, the intense voice of faith becomes a very important vocabulary of politics. So in a sense, I think the keystone of the BJP campaign as it goes into the Lok Sabha election will be about fulfilling this particular promise, along with, of course, many other things which it would like to focus on. So clearly, the timing has been perfect, as has been the timing which the BJP has had for the last 9 years in terms of managing the message and managing the placement of a message, irrespective of which field that message comes from, to draw political/electoral dividends from that. So I think undoubtedly this has been something which the BJP would use to their advantage.
All right, we seem to be losing that link with Mr. Shastri, but we'll get that audio corrected. Let me go across to Ajay Alok. Ajay Alok, the big messages from what RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat and the Prime Minister said today. This was a goal that the BJP had been working towards. The Prime Minister said that we apologize for the delay in construction of the Ram Temple, the return of the Ram Lalla idol to Ayodhya. How does this make the BJP stronger in the coming months? Because yes, elections are around the corner. There is always talk about continuity of the government, the economy, the business always speaks about that. How does this encourage the BJP's prospects going forward?
See, whenever you make or build a political party, you just need to show your vision that what you want to do. Now, Ram Mandir has nothing to do with elections, with the upcoming elections or something. This was one thing which was very close to our heart and to the millions of Hindus across and to the millions of Bharatiya Janata Party Karyakarta. Government or no government, we have always believed in Ram Temple and we wanted to do it at the earliest. Don't forget, we are the only party who has sacrificed 4 government of ours when the so-called Babri Dhacha was demolished. So it's something very close to heart which does not confine to the election. And yes, it does make BJP very strong, because when you see your goal being accomplished, you aspire for more, and that fills you with energy. What PM said today, ki Ram Agni and Ram Urja hai. So this Ram Temple has filled up with energy and with positive energy for doing something good for the nation. And in the process, party will become more strong and more victorious and emerge like it has always emerged in the past.
Right. Karan Verma, the Prime Minister said that this is India's time. 22nd January will no longer be just another date. It's going to be remembered for decades, years to come, centuries to come. He also said that this is another step towards nation building. If you had to pick up certain cues, immediate priorities of the Prime Minister, of the government, of the RSS, from this speech that was delivered from the temple inauguration, what would those cues be?
Jai Shri Ram, Parikshit, to you, to our fellow panelists, and to the crores of countrymen for whom today is a moment of pride. And I say this with a lot of conviction. It's not just a moment of pride for any Hindu. It's a moment of pride for our civilization in totality. And when the Prime Minister talks about it, or when RSS talks about it, we must understand that they have sacrificed a lot for this movement. A lot of people say that, okay, they are going to get political mileage out of it or whatever. But the truth is, this movement would not have reached its fruition if not for the sacrifice and the complete mobilization that happened through the Karyakartas of BJP, RSS, VHP. Yes, the judgment came through the Supreme Court. But it was their government that pushed for a day-to-day hearing. It was their government that translated lakhs of documents back in 2017 when the successive UP governments could not translate those documents. So today, if they are getting credit for it, I say this, yes, they deserve credit for this. Now, as far as what are the cues coming out of it, let's understand this, Parikshit. Mr. Modi has a very holistic view of development. We remember when the Kashi Vishwanath corridor opened, people were saying, why are we wasting so much of money? And all those naysayers were coming up with it. Today, we know that there is a 1700% jump in the tourism in Kashi post the corridor. Now, as far as the Ram Mandir is concerned, what the CAIP has come up with is a 50,000 crores of trade of Mandir Samagris and accessories alone in the coming year. So we are seeing a very holistic model of development where cultural pride is also a centerpiece of it. And at the same time, its benefits are reaching one and all. So I think the cue from this is that this is only going to go to greater heights. And the Ram Rajya that he's talked about, where prosperity reaches
go up to greater heights. Karan,
I think, yeah, sorry.
Right, Karan, I'm going to come back to you. Let me take quick questions with Ajay Alok and Mr. Shastri. Mr. Alok, I'd like to ask you about certain immediate priorities. Yes, the interim budget is around the corner. Then you'll have the full budget in July, depending on the election outcome. But I would like to ask you, what can the people of this country, especially some of the most vulnerable groups, expect if you had to give certain predictions from the Prime Minister's speech? Yes, the interim budget is still in the works. Only the Finance Ministry and the PMO knows what's really happening. But if you were to give certain cues for the Aam Aadmi based on what the Prime Minister said today during the inauguration of the Ram Temple, what would those be? Ajay Alok.
Well, Prime Minister has always been saying this: "Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas, Sabka Vikas." So, it's a development for everyone. It's not like the development for such few development. So what Prime Minister said, that yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai. So this is the time for India's boom. This is the India's time which the globe is also seeing. When all the economies are failing in the world, we are at number 5 and we are going at a steady rate of 6.2%. Now our main target is also that the prices should be lowered down, the inflation should be under control. And with this new infrastructure boom in 3 dimensions attached to it. Number 1 is social dimension of Ayodhya. Number 2 is cultural dimension, cultural angle of Ayodhya, which is so important globally. Like today, we are able to express our cultural nationalism all over the globe. Today, the telecast was being run in almost around 140 countries. Today, this is something, an economical boom like what your experts were talking earlier. Economical boom is bound to happen because almost 55,000 crores of investment has already taken place. The World Bank and other financial rating agencies, they are expecting the Ayodhya business, Ayodhya story of business to be somewhere around 1 lakh crores.
Throwing up an economic opportunity. Mr. Shastri, in about 30 seconds, where does this leave the opposition? Several key opposition parties, Congress, TMC, they skipped this event today. How do you see the opposition faring from here onwards? What does this milestone today mean for the political debate over the Ram Temple?
Parikshit, as I said in my earlier intervention, the BJP has managed to transform an important voice of faith into the vocabulary of politics. And what the opposition was caught doing is only responding to the agenda set by the BJP. And it will be important to see in the coming months whether they can make their focus on Nyay as the key element of the campaign, or whether the BJP can turn their Nyay, which is getting Nyay for the country, as they would put it. So I think it will be a competition between two narratives of Nyay. The icon of culture and civilization becoming an instrument of politics is, I think, the question that will come up.
All right, we've run out of time. Ajay Alok, Sandeep Shastri, Karan Verma, thank you very much for joining us on the program. We're going to take another break here on CNBC-TV18. The discussion continues on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
It's a very divine occasion. Blessed to be a part of this.
बहुत ही बड़ा दिन है और कोई खुशी मतलब मैं जाहिर नहीं कर सकते हम कितने खुश हैं।
श्री रामचंद्र कृपालो भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणम्।
आज तो केवल आस्था है, विश्वास है, पूजा है मन में।
मैं जब एंटर कर रहा था आफ्टर द सिक्योरिटी आई स्टार्टेड वीपिंग।
The Ram Mandir temple is set to give a huge boost to tourism sector in the temple town of Ayodhya. That's right. Ajay Bakaya of Sarovar Hotels, who we spoke to earlier, said that at least 15 to 20 branded hotel projects were on the anvil in Ayodhya. That's right. A report by Jeffries highlights that the town could be looking at least 50 million tourists a year and could go all the way up to 100 million. That is 5 times more than what Mecca in Saudi Arabia attracts every year and 10 times more than Vatican City. That's not all. The estimated tourist footfall could top that of Golden Temple in Amritsar, the Tirupati Temple in Andhra Pradesh, and the Jagannath Temple in Odisha's Puri. Jeffries expects Indian tourism to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 8% to 443 billion in the next decade. Needless to say, the Ayodhya Ram Temple is expected to account for a significant chunk of that. Several companies like L&T, Havells, SIS and Allied Digital have been involved with the Ram Temple project. And joining us on the broadcast is Parag Bhatnagar, the president of Havells India. Thank you very much for joining us. We've also been joined by Anurag Katriyar, founder at Indigo Hospitality. He's also a trustee of the National Restaurant Association of India. We also have with us Nilesh Shah, managing director at Kotak Mutual Fund. Let me go across to Parag first. Parag, let me ask you about Havells, how Havells was involved with the project, the number of man-hours that you had to deploy, the kind of the number of skilled employees you had to send on the ground to get things going.
First of all, thank you, Parikshit, for having me here. So this project was obviously, as you spoke, is extremely important. So much of emotions are attached to the project. And for lighting point of view, actually it was a very difficult project because we have to design light as per the different areas of the temple. Like, Garbhagriha lighting has to be different than pillars, walls, ceiling, and job of lighting was actually to ensure that the beauty of the temple and the intricate carvings which are there on the ceiling and the pillars should come out, and the lighting has to add value to the overall divine environment and spirituality that is there in the temple. So, so what we have done, we have used high-tech lighting, and we have took minimalistic design approach where lighting, the fixture size was smaller, while the optics was so technically designed that it gives the desired output of the lighting. Even we have also in the Garbhagriha, we have designed a spotlight which actually was there to highlight the Sri Ram Lala idol, and it was 24 karat spotlight, and it was having a adjustable tilt so that the beam of the light should come properly on the Sri Ram idol. So there are many challenges in the project, and it's a fairly large project. We also have to do the installation and commissioning of the projects. A very large team of Havells technical team engineers were working day and night for many months to complete the project.
Parag, how big was the order that you received from the UP administration, from the Temple Trust, and how will you continue supplying and supporting the project in the next few years?
See, that project, actually, there are many different areas. So in total, we have installed more than 3,000 lighting fixtures in the temple, and they are, around pillars for highlighting walls, at the ceiling, and more than, we have also used profile lighting especially for the ceiling light, because lighting up the ceiling is very difficult because the lighting has to be the fixture has to blend with the stone. So we have used the powder coating in a way that the fixture will not be visible. So it will highlight the beautiful ceiling, but there will not be any visual hindrance when you look at the ceiling, pillars. Also, we have taken care of devotees who are actually visiting. There are certain lights who are circular and linear to highlight the pillars. And when devotees are walking over it, I mean, it should not impede the movement of the devotees. And the lights are also made in a way that they are also water resistance, dust resistance, and it's an overall visual delight for the devotees and gives a lot of comfort the way the lighting is designed.
All right, Parag, thank you very much for telling us how Havells India was associated with the project. Let me go across to the MD of Kotak Mutual Fund, Mr. Nilesh Shah. Mr. Shah, as a veteran of the Indian markets, we have seen at least 10 or 11 companies, 10 or 11 stocks in focus as a result of the Ayodhya Ram Temple inauguration. What kind of a opportunity do you see for India as a result of this milestone now being achieved?
So, Parikshit, India is the net exporter of tourists. We receive far less tourists than what we send abroad. And as a country, what do we don't have? We have beaches, we have mountains, we have deserts, we have heritage sites. But despite this, the Louvre Museum in France gets more number of visitors and tourists than whole of India. A small island nation, Singapore, gets more tourists. When we promote spiritualism, when we create facilities, when we build anchors like city of Ayodhya, hopefully it will support the tourism sector. In Kasi, we have seen about 5 crore people visiting every year. More than 12 crore people have visited in 2 years. And the entire economy of Kasi has been rejuvenated. If we can create multiple tourist attractions, which can anchor for variety of other industries from airline to railway to hotel to FMCG to QSR, that will spurt our economy, that will create jobs and growth. So my hope and prayer is that Ayodhya becomes next Kashi or even bigger than Kashi and becomes anchor for attracting tourists into India.
All right, so you hope and pray that it becomes another Kashi or even bigger than Kashi in terms of attracting tourists to India. We're going to take a short break on this side, but don't go anywhere. This interesting discussion with Nilesh Shah and Anurag Kajiyar continues on the other side. We will be talking about the economic opportunity coming out of this temple inauguration. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Nilesha, let me continue that conversation with you. You did speak about the economic opportunity arising in form of tourism. But what the BJP would also like to showcase to voters and the people of the country, and also to foreign companies, that the fact that we could get the Ram temple built shows that we are decisive, we can get things done, and this is a sign of continuity of administration for the next few years as well. Any cues that the market, financial experts would like to pick from this temple inauguration, according to you?
I think market is processing multiple sets of data. Of course, as you mentioned, this event will be evaluated by the market, whether this will help in continuity of government or not. But again, this is a dynamic process. Various events keeps on happening, and market will be processing multiple sets of data to figure out whether there will be continuity of government or not, whether this will result into rapid economic growth or not, whether this will make growth sustainable or not.
Right. Important points there. Anurag, if I can come to you, we have been seeing a lot of hotel chains setting up outlets in Ayodhya, cashing in and exploiting and leveraging the boom that we're seeing. What about the Restaurant Association? How many big restaurant chains do you expect to go to Ayodhya in the next 36 months or so?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I think everybody who is in the business of F&B will be getting to Ayodhya, because it is gonna be a huge place for tourism, and wherever tourism is, you need the F&B infrastructure as well. The difference would be, being a temple town, you may not be running pubs and bars, but you'll be running beautiful restaurants. Maybe more of them like a vegetarian restaurants. But everybody, see, understand something. If about 6 to 8 crore people are expected to visit Ayodhya every year, you know, it is a huge opportunity. Even if a person spends on an average during a visit a couple of ₹1,000, you can do the maths. It's a huge number that we are looking at. And I'm very confident that every restaurateur worth his salt will make a visit to Ayodhya, and they'll be soon looking at opportunities to open their stores.
Right. Nilesha, coming back to you, the companies that we have been seeing in focus over the last few weeks, major construction players like L&T, security firms like SIS, do you see a continued opportunity for these companies over the next few years? Do you feel that these stocks will continue to be in focus?
So these companies obviously will have to do other work. But when your brand is associated with a prestigious product, obviously it gets a lift up. So to that extent, vendors who are associated with Ayodhya temple, they should see upliftment in their brand. They should see some amount of re-rating of their stocks, provided they can continue this brand value to get higher premium or more business in the days to come.
Right. Anurag, coming back to you, when it comes to ease of doing business, now that this temple has been inaugurated, the Prime Minister said in his speech, this is India time, this is a step towards nation building, this is the rise of Viksit Bharat, all the naysayers have been proved wrong. What would be the unfinished agenda if we want to continue leveraging the economic boom that comes with the inauguration of the temple, a strong message that we need to send out to global investors? What would be the unfinished agenda in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of reforms, according to you?
So a couple of things. I think as far as ease of doing business is concerned, there have been lots of positive progresses of late. But yeah, still our industry is one of the highly regulated industries. In fact, we have made a representation to the Honorable Finance Minister. I think with the size that we have and the employment opportunities we generate, it's perhaps time to have a separate ministry to monitor the growth of Indian F&B business. And I say that from a very positive perspective. You know, one of the biggest soft power that India has to attract tourism, and it has not been used, is the sheer varietal and depth of Indian regional food. You know, world over, the top countries that attract tourism like Spain and all, Australia, they work on the food and beverage offering. Our depth of food is far bigger than them. Culinarily speaking, we are more than a country. We are perhaps a continent. And I think this is where, if you have a dedicated ministry, this is from policy framework, I think you can really channelize the soft power to attract a huge amount of inbound tourism. Like a little while back, Mr. Nilesh was saying that today we are net exporter of tourism. I think this can be one of the biggest glues to get the tourism into India. When people travel, they look at places, they look at infrastructure, but one of the biggest attraction is food.
All right. Nilesha, when we speak about the unfinished agenda, today the Prime Minister spoke about laying the foundation for the next 1,000 years, the rise of India on the global map. If you felt that there were a few areas where the agenda is not finished, areas we now need to prioritize, now that this major political milestone has been achieved for the ruling party, what would that be?
Two agendas clearly which we need to pursue. One is education, second is healthcare. Today, our investment in education and healthcare as a percentage of GDP is on the lower side vis-a-vis peers. We have made a great jump in providing quality education at the top with IITs and IIMs and Institute of Chartered Accountants. But the quality of education at the bottom, the primary education, clearly can be improved significantly. The second is healthcare. India today has provided doctors to countries like UK and US and Middle East. We provide generic medicines to the world at a much cheaper cost. The cost of healthcare treatment in India is much cheaper compared to the world. And yet, primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, tertiary healthcare in India is not up to global standard. We need to invest in education and healthcare.
All right. Education and healthcare need to be a priority for the future now that this Ram Temple inauguration is over. Thank you very much, Anurag and Nilesha, for joining us. We come to the end of this special show. Thank you for watching. News continues on CNBC-TV18.